All right. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's digital learning series. I'm Borj, head of programs for GrowAsia, and I'll be your host for today's exciting session. Now let's take a quick look at today's agenda. We have a packed and insightful day ahead, filled with valuable information and inspiring innovation. But before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. We are in a webinar environment, so we don't necessarily see everyone, but you can see us. So please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask questions in the duration of this session today. For any technical issues, you can chat with us. You can use a chat function or email Ranti, who has graciously offered herself to be a representative for that. You can contact Ranti at ranti@growasia.org. And this webinar is recorded and will be shared publicly after this session. So in case you're in a hurry and you miss some parts, you can definitely look at the session again at your own convenience. Let's start today with a quick poll to see which organizations or what type of organization are present here today. You'll see a selection on your screen, whether you're a startup, investor, other private sector partners, civil society organization or NGO, government, from the academic institution or others. You can select that in the screen. Let's just wait for that to kick in. I'm just energizing to know that we do have participants in the room. I'll pause for 3 seconds to let you select your organization. All right, I think that's it. Let's close that poll. And we have a lot of our NGO and civil society organization partners with us today, as well as some of our private sector and startup partners. Thank you all for joining us. Now, for those who are new to our series, we are here, we are from GrowAsia, and we are established by the World Economic Forum and the ASEAN to build a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food systems through multi-stakeholder platforms. And today, you are joining us in our digital learning series as part of GrowAsia's GrowVentures program. It's a platform for our digital community of practice to share insights on how digital solutions can be developed and scaled up to benefit smallholder farmers. GrowVentures aims to accelerate the adoption of climate-smart innovations, putting digital solutions directly into the hands of farmers. We're supported by our corporate partners Visa and Taiwan, alongside the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs of the Government of Korea through IFAD, under the Smallholder Economic Empowerment through Digital Solutions Project, or SEEDS. And today's DLS serves as an innovation showcase as we all welcome and put into the spotlight the top 10 innovators for the GrowAsia Innovation Challenge 2024. These trailblazers will share their journey and solutions they have developed for the agri-food innovation space. GrowAsia is partnering with Beanstalk AgTech to source and partner with these high-potential digital agri-food innovators, contributing to climate-smart agriculture outcomes across Southeast Asia. And today's innovators will focus on carbon management and marketplace solutions. Let's all give them a virtual round of applause if you're able to. I am, so I will. And before that, allow me to introduce as well Paul Vautier, our incredible senior advisor for innovations at GrowAsia, that will be moderating the Q&A sessions at the end. So please keep your questions coming across the presentations today. And now let's welcome our first presenter to kick things off. Over to you, Vishad from Transitory. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. So we'll move on to the slide. Yes. Imagine a world where sustainability projects actually deliver on their promises, where impact is transparent, risk is minimized, and trust is built. I'm Vishan, co founder of Transitory, and we are making this vision a reality. Next. Today, 86% of sustainability initiatives fail to deliver on their promises. This is often due to inadequate governance, leading to policy gaps, operational inefficiencies, and financial risk. These shortcomings undermine investments, cast doubt on the impact claims, and leave stakeholders in the dark. Next. We are changing this with our digital MRV risk platform, which is AI driven and powered by a custom blockchain. Let me illustrate you with a real world example. Michelin Tire Group, one of our clients, is sourced rubber from smallholder farmers in Southeast Asia. They want to ensure sustainable agriculture practices are implemented. Two, they are procuring ethically sourced rubber. And finally, farmers' lives are positively impacted alongside ensuring environmental impact. Our solution caters a digital twin on ground agricultural activities and real time verification. We are tracking improvements in soil health by measuring soil and carbon with our soil probe in 30 seconds. Our predictive risk mapping tool identifies and helps mitigate operational, financial, and other risks across the value chain by preemptively prompting stakeholders to take corrective actions. Finally, farmers receive an additional source of income for implementing these sustainable initiatives. This was achieved by driving a higher price of the commodity sold by the farmer. Not to forget the auditing capabilities built within the system to support external and internal audit to cater compliance and certification. But here's where it gets exciting. Any stakeholder anywhere in the world can trace these initiatives through a simple QR code generated by our platform. This level of transparency and traceability is unprecedented. Next, our comprehensive platform offers a digital MRV, traceability and audit as a service, ESG compliance tools, geospatial analysis, AI powered assessments and chatbots, identity as a service with robust data privacy. All services are available as plug and play modules with custom integration. Next. Unlike others, we gather first party data, allowing us to build powerful predictive risk models. This empowers you to manage your entire sustainability portfolio and showcase real impact. Next. We are currently offering our services in a tier based approach, and these are as per the likings of each corporate or each likewise the organization would go about. Next. Our success speaks for itself. We are operational in 5 different countries, managing 5 million hectares of land with an annual recurring revenue of $1.4 million. We have raised our pre seed funding from top tier VCs in Southeast Asia and India, and we are working with global giants like Michelin, Veolia, Sapa on projects such as biochar, green hydrogen, and sustainable agriculture, which we have generated 6.4 million carbon credits. By the way, these credits are available for purchase as of today. Our funding team, also, by the way, next. Our founding team brings a wealth of experience in venture building, sustainable agriculture, and risk modeling approaches. Next. Our proposal here is that we have an access to over 1 plus million hectares of land of rice farm fields with the support of IRI, combined with our technology, which measures carbon in soil in situ in a matter of seconds, improved gas sampling methods, and trace case analysis, as we understand these are critical in nature to showcase environmental impact. Our ask here is twofold. Number one, funding to implement this technology in Vietnam and Cambodia, and to partner with large commodity organizations like Taiba. Next. Whether you're an investor, a potential client, or an interested in purchasing our carbon credits, let's connect. And thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vishan, for sharing that presentation. And aren't you onto an exciting theme at the moment? And I think there's a lot of interest in transparency around carbon projects, and I think a great deal of demand for that service. I wanted to ask you about the tension between digital solutions and on the ground. So in the world of carbon projects, I think we'd all like to be able to sit at a computer monitor and monitor projects using satellites. But we do need people on the ground to go and talk to farmers and monitor what's actually happening. But having people go out and do things is expensive and time consuming. How scalable are solutions like this, given there is a need, I guess, to have boots on the ground to make monitoring happen?
Yes, Paul, you're absolutely right. These are time-consuming processes. When we're looking at carbon projects, we are looking at number one, we're looking at scalability and credibility. What is really most important? What we have learned over the past 5 or 6 years, credibility of a particular data set for a carbon project is more initially required, and then you look at scalability of a given project. So to achieve this, the only way to look at this is that in the first few 1 to 3 years, where you're onboarding a lot of these smallholders farmers, yes, it's a pretty intensive process. You need to have a lot of people on ground to be able to onboard the farmers. Number one, capture the baseline data. And when it comes to rice as well, it's specifically about how accurately are you capture these gases, and then you're analyzing it, and then you're publishing these data sets, right? These are really important the initial days, but as time moves on, 3+ years, this becomes absolutely scalable. So you can monitor these farmers because once they have this particular learning curve of what needs to be done, that's the beauty of the product, and it scales by itself. But what needs to be understood is that as much as digital solutions are available today, if it is not farmer friendly, or I would put it across saying that if it's not segmented to a particular region, then it will fall through the cracks. So hence what we have done is we approach it in a beautiful manner where all of these solutions that we're offering today, it's a plug and play module. And this is designed specifically from a farmer's perspective to help smallholder farmers to be onboarded. And we tested it, by the way, yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vishan. I think it's really interesting that on-the-ground presence is required as a project starts. And then hopefully over time, it becomes more scalable by virtue of being able to migrate the relationship over to a digital one. I think an interesting insight. And I'll pass over to our next presentation. I've got some more questions for you during the panel. Thanks, Vishan.
Right, thanks, Paul and Vishan. I'll introduce our next innovator from Thanks Carbon team, Dr. Haewon Kim and Mr. Tiger Lee. Over to you.
Hello. This is Haewon Kim, CEO of Thanks Carbon. As our company name suggests, where is our deck?
Apologies for that. Go ahead, Dr. Haewon.
Hello, this is Haewon Kim, CEO of Thanks Carbon. Next. As our company name suggests, we focus on soil as a solution to the climate crisis. Carbon itself isn't the problem, it's the excess in the atmosphere. Our mission is to help carbon return to where it belongs. When carbon is in the right place, trees, forests, and many crops can thrive because of it. They are grateful for carbon. And that's why we are called Thanks Carbon. Next. Before founding the company, my co-founder and I were producers. During our travels making documentaries, we met farmers practicing agriculture that not only produced good food, but also restored the soil. Inspired by their philosophy, we dove into studying carbon, which led us to create Thanks Carbon. Next. After founding the company, we met farmers in Haenam, Jeollanam-do, who were reducing methane emissions through water management in rice paddies. Korea aims to convert 400,000 hectares of rice paddies by 2030. Next.
최장님 같은 경우에는
Next, please. And this is key to its and its goals. By shifting farming practices, farmers can earn carbon credits, providing financial incentives for decarbonization. Next, please. We realized that transitioning global rice cultivation areas could create a carbon credits market worth up to $6 billion. Next, please. Next, please. While the market potential is impressive, it could remain out of reach unless we develop the technology to ensure scientific verification and economic feasibility. This is why we grew into a climate tech company. Our CTO, Tiger, who played a key role in making this vision a reality, will now explain the challenge we've identified and solutions we've developed. Hi, Tiger.
Hi. Hello, I'm Tiger, the CTO of the Thanks Carbon. I will briefly introduce our technology and project from now on. Please, next. On the right, you can see images about methane emission worldwide. You can see that emissions are concentrated in Asia, where the main rice farming area in the world. The continuous flooding method is rice farming kept fields flooded, creating anaerobic conditions. This leads to methane emissions. As you know, methane is 28 times more potential as a greenhouse gases than carbon dioxide. Next. However, using the AWD method developed by many agricultural researchers can reduce methane emission by 40% and water usage by up to 28%. Next. This method is also registered with major carbon credit certification bodies. It is allowing farmers to generate income from carbon credit. Next. But there are many challenges for farmers to implement AWD. It requires cost to prove AWD implementation and have complex carbon credit processes. So we developed our solution Heimdall to solve this problem. Next. So far, we've completed full pilot project. Through this project, we realized that measurement technology alone cannot solve this issue. In addition to measurement technology, we need to organize farms and manage them effectively. That's why we developed a comprehensive platform, Heimdall, which includes satellite and AI-based monitoring and farm organization management, as shown below. Next. Our mechanism consists of 5 components: application, satellite, land management, and farmer management. Next. We use a satellite, it allowing us to clearly monitor large area. Next. The satellite we use can intuitively detect whether a field is flooded. They operate dynamically, adapting to rice growth. It is allowing us to monitor the water level regardless of the rice stage of growth. Next. We also use satellite to accurately detect the boundary of the rice field. This is especially useful in countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Cambodia. These countries do not have digital coordination system in the government. Next. The core of our technology is detecting changes on the ground using satellite and AI. This is used for MRV and predicting crop yield and measuring change in natural resources. Next. From now on, I would like to introduce our recent project in Thai Binh in Vietnam. Next. The Thai Binh project started from February and ended July this year. It covered 66 hectares involving 800 farmers. And it was done in collaboration with the IAE. They are the Vietnam's Agriculture Research Institute. Next. The project started with the field survey, followed by grouping the project area, as I mentioned earlier. Next. Then we trained farmer on AWD and how to use the Heimdall app. In this project, we using the Heimdall framework, we tested 1,500 cases to determine if AWD was applied. It achieved 97% accuracy. From our full project, we learned that simply providing measurement technology is not enough to have farmers adopt AWD and gain its benefit. So we aim to develop our platform to support farmers throughout the entire farming cycle, from straw management to low carbon certification. And I'm sure that our solution improved the small-scale farmers' life. Next. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
Wonderful. Look, thank you for that presentation. And I think it was interesting, again, seeing that theme of the blending of technology together with face-to-face interactions with farmers and cross-correlating data between those two, again, coming out very strongly, and I think is going to be a key theme of carbon projects going forward. Dr. Kim, I wanted to ask about behavioral change, because adopting AWD is not necessarily easy. It takes some time and some effort and some new ways of thinking and some new skills. What, in your experience, are some of the barriers for growers as you encourage them to adopt AWD?
Can I answer the question?
Of course, please do.
Yeah, the concern of the farmers is different from the region. In Vietnam, they usually fear a decrease in yield. And in Bangladesh, they fear weed growth. In Cambodia, they fear weakness of the roots of the rice. So to convince farmer, we must demonstrate that there are no issue in the AWD. Before start the practical project, we should doing the pilot project there. And we conduct and we also have some educational section for the farmers, so they do not fear about the issue, and then we can do the project.
Wonderful, thank you. It's such a clear expression of the key concerns, and they're great to keep in mind, aren't they? If we can have a lot of technology, but unless we are aware of and address behavioral change, we won't get the result we're looking for. So thank you for articulating that. I want to encourage participants to continue to file questions in the chat, and we will deal with those in the panel session at the end. Thank you to Thanks Carbon.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Carbon team, Dr. Haewon and Mr. Tiger Lee. on to the next presenter for this afternoon. From Rice Farm, Sim from Rice. But before Sim, sorry, Sim, we'll also want to encourage again our participants to just use the Q&A box for any of your questions, as well as the chat box, and we'll get to you a little later after all the presentations has been done. Over to you then, Sim.
Thanks, Borj. Hello, everyone. Good to meet you. My name is Sim, indeed. I'm from Rise, which is an agri-tech startup. Today I will try to tell you a little bit more about how we came about as a company, the proposition we offer to smallholder farmers in Rise, how we think about a sustainable business model and looking also to scale that across the region in Southeast Asia. And then finish off with our partnership model. That's also, I think, very important to highlight, because we can't just do it by ourselves. We're a small startup, and we really like to engage with the wider ecosystem. So yeah, let's kick off. Next slide, please. So I won't dive too much into the detail, because I'm glad that the colleagues at Thanks Carbon have already shared a bit on the issue with rice. But let me just briefly highlight from this slide that, of course, rice, as you might know, it's a very important crop globally, right? So about half the world's population is depending on rice in their diet on a daily basis. So the volumes are already big, and these are expected to grow by 2050 by 2x. And particularly to the global south, because that's where most of the rice is being cultivated. These are sometimes really small holding farmers, very rural areas with very uncertain income expectations. So it's a critical stakeholder group that we really need to protect, as it's so vital for food security globally. Next slide, please. So whilst it's very vast in volume, it's also very emission intensive and water intensive. So as Thanks Carbon also alluded to, the emissions from rice are mostly from a methane perspective. So the alternate wetting and drying, so AWD, is a water irrigation technique that is actually implemented to help reduce the methane emission from rice. And I will touch a bit later on that, particularly of why farmers are actually cultivating in flooded paddies. But secondly, also the water that is going into these flooded paddies is just tremendous. Just realize that a single bowl of rice is taking up a full bathtub of water. So that's the amount of fresh water that is needed to actually cultivate the rice bowl. So if you can imagine that the scale of rice is being grown, this is just an immense problem, equating to about 30% of freshwater resources. So back to the methane issue. If you could compare, or if you would look at it from a global scale, so methane from rice is actually representing 10% of global methane, which is huge, of course. And to put it in comparison, I always like to make the reference to it's even as large as global aviation. So all the flights throughout the world are less emission intensive than rice cultivation. Anyway, let's move to the challenge on the ground. Next slide, please. So what is actually happening on the ground, right? So I alluded to the farmers that are cultivating rice in flooded paddies. This is actually done just to prevent weed growth. So centuries back, farmers have found that weeds are actually the main issue for cultivating rice. It has a huge impact because weeds also eat up all the nutrients in the soils. So farmers have just started flooding their paddies to prevent this weed growth. Plus, it also then reduces the needs for pesticides to actually combat the weeds. So, but what happens under the water, as explained, there's methane bacteria actually growing. They're eating on the soil organic material, and through a fermentation process, this releases methane, which is indeed 28 times more potent and bad for the environment than carbon. So how should we actually change this, right? Because it's a behavioral change, and also alluded to the question by Paul earlier. How do you actually incentivize a change? And we found actually that farmers, when you talk to them on the ground, they face the real issues that they face are actually, there's three real issues. One is obviously from an economic perspective, right? Farmers are often not really conscious that their fields are emitting so many methane, and they're not so easily handhold it into making a change of this behavior, because they've been doing this for centuries, and they know that if they flood the paddy, they will get a good yield at harvest. So the first thing really starts in showcasing them and showing that this practice now actually equates to a lot of emissions for the environment. But the practice that could be implemented, or AWD, could also help in improving yield. Just to give you a clear example, and then I'll move on. Because what happens if you reduce the amount of water, the rice plant will actually, the root of the plant will actually start growing, because it's in search of water if you reduce the water for a certain amount of days. So this root growth, when you then reapply water, will actually absorb more water, which will lead to more plant growth and actually more yield. So there's actually benefits economically if you apply AWD rather than just reducing the amount of methane, which is already significant. Studies show that about 50% of methane can be reduced by applying AWD, but not too many farmers know that this could also have productivity benefits. Next slide, please. So what we've designed is, next slide. Yeah. So what we've designed is actually a way or a mission of our company of transforming the whole, transforming the whole rice value chain to a more sustainable food source. But at the same time, we also want to improve livelihoods of farmers. So in this case, impact and return go hand in hand, so that we can create a more sustainable food source for generations to come. Next slide. 3 minutes left. Okay, I'll speed up. So the key objectives for our platform are business model innovation. We're not creating a new technology here. We're really focusing on helping the farmers implement new practice changes, similar like AWD. So the adoption is critical, and we're looking to create a playbook that is scalable across other geographies. Next slide. So the platform is actually, there's 4 key attributes. On the left-hand side, we bring in innovation and financial services. We supply cost-effective agri-inputs to the farmer. We have a built tech-enabled agronomy. So because we believe to help farmers, we need to focus on the agronomists, so the agri-advisors. And we all measure and report this through our MRV system. Next slide. So here's a quick overview of what we've built from the MRV side. So as I mentioned, all our technology is focused on the agronomist, because we believe this person has it in its power to help the transition with the smallholder farmer. We don't focus too much on the smallholder farmer because they have many challenges, as I just alluded to. So our technology is tech-enabled agronomy. We've built, therefore, an application that the agronomist can use to actually implement the sustainable practice. So he or she will be guided to do all the tasks that are needed, for example, to implement AWD and capture all the relevant data to eventually also issue credits. Next slide. So we're focused on many of the SDGs, as I just mentioned earlier. We're backed by in-class investors, best in class. So Breakthrough Energy Ventures, Gen Zero, Temasek, and Wavemaker Impact, which is our venture builder. And the last slide is a call to action. I'm wrapping up.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you, we've talked a bit about behavioral change in the way that rice is grown and migration across to AWD. But I wanted to ask you about digital literacy as well. So you're relying on the agronomist, you said that. Have you found that the agronomists you work with are readily adopting mobile apps and digital communication, or is that, how do you find the digital literacy barrier in your work?
Yeah, so good question, and we've put a lot of thought to this, right? Because we're essentially helping to get, new solutions, new applications to the agronomist. We actually found it differs obviously per geo. If we look at Vietnam specifically, I think Vietnam has one of the highest digital penetration rates in Southeast Asia. So the population is very young. They're very used to actually using applications. So we don't really see an issue with digital literacy at the agronomist level. Obviously, the farmer level is different. If you look at the farmer characteristics, these are often people that are 50, 60 years old and don't fully rely on smartphones. They usually have smartphones at the household level. So one of their kids will have a smartphone. So, but the agronomist level, that's the person we focus on. These are often, well, we recruit junior and senior agronomists. So junior agronomists could be people right out of university, which are very digital literate. Financial literacy, on the other hand, is a different thing, but we can talk about that in another time.
Right. Thank you very much for your insights, and thanks for your presentation. Look forward to the panel.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much, Paul and Sam. I think the questions so far are really, really interesting. And now let's move on to our next presenter from Sagri. Tin, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Tien, and I'm a business development manager of Sagri, based in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So today I will give you a little bit about our company and what solution we provide. So next, please. So Sagri, we are Japanese companies with a focus on agricultural data service and a platform company that helps to promote sustainable agriculture processes and to have the smaller farmers across the Asia Pacific region to increase their income. So we use the satellite data, include with the weather and soil data, into the actionable insights for credit creation, intelligent farming, and soil health check, for carbon offset analysis and optimizing the agricultural practice. Next, please. Our headquarters in Japan, but we do have two branches, one in Singapore and one in India. Now we are very focused on Asian market. We do have some technology to introduce. First technology is the AI polygon, where applied broadly in Japan. It has to automatically detect the farmland boundary. Next, please. Next, please. The second, sorry, come back. The second technology is a satellite-based soil analysis. So we make the soil condition visible to farmers. With the historical data and satellite data, we can analyze the soil health automatically, which it can have 10 times cheaper and 10 times faster. It also can contribute in monitoring and have the farmer increase their productivity. Based on this data, we also provide the advisory in the cultivation as well. Next, please. And we focus in some data, includes the pH, the CEC, and the nitrogen, and the carbon, the soil carbon. Next, please. And the third technology we are developing is the water detection from satellite data. So it's most focused on the AWD technology process for reliable data. Next, please. So in Asia, in Asian market, we do focus in two main products. One is the soil analysis service, and the second is the carbon credits project, where we cooperate with some purchaser from Japan or other markets and connect them directly with our local partners and farmers from the cooperatives to reach the highest selling price, and also to maximize the carbon credit can generate it. Also, the side work, we can do also the GHG checking as well. Next, please. So next, I will introduce some projects that we are currently do in Asian market and especially in Asian one. Firstly, we cooperation with Japan MAF. We had been mentioned in the Midori Cooperation Plan, focus in the Asian countries. Next, please. We also showcase in the international conference such as the COP28. Next, please. We are very focused in Vietnamese market, where we are currently doing 2 projects. First is the voluntary carbon credit in sugarcane in Thanh Hóa, where we involve around 4,000 farmers with 10,000 hectares of sugar canes. And the second project is the GCM carbon credits in Mekong Delta. So we cooperate with the Cần Thơ University and now are doing the POC in 4 provinces, which is very focused for rice production in Vietnam and specific in Mekong Delta region. Next, please. In Philippines, which is a first country of GCM for AWD as well, we also have developed the business related to the satellite-based soil analysis pilot, and also do the GCM AWD project to develop the satellite water detection technology. Next, please. In Thailand and in Cambodia, we also doing some pilot for the AWD specifically, and also we do the advocacy for the regulation development as well to have to build the regulation that's suitable to develop the AWD in that 2 countries. Next, please. Next, please. Yep, so that's it on about my presentation today. So if you're interested in our products and would like to learn more about that, I'm very happy to be connected after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Look, thank you. Thank you for that. And the emphasis on satellite is a really interesting one. I wanted to ask you the policy question. So most of the countries, and I know you've worked in several different countries across the world, I'm actually surprised by your geographic reach. Most of these countries are quite keen to capture the carbon market and help their farmers move to low carbon production. But I wanted to ask you about the regulatory environment and government incentives. Among the countries that you've worked in, what action can governments take that unlock these sort of projects? What makes them easier? What makes them more likely to succeed?
Yes, very good question. Thank you for that. So I think governments themselves plays a very crucial role in the develop that market. So I think government, they can enhance the market by investing in the digital infrastructure, which could be the satellite data system or the AI integration, and create the supportive regulatory frameworks for carbon markets, which I think is very important. And also the government themselves can have in capacity building program for farmers. So we know that in Southeast Asia, the farmer usually a very small, that is the smallholder farmers, which should be subsidized or help from the governments for to convince and support them in financially and also guide them them on suitable practice and carbon credit generation. So yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And obviously a really important role for government as well as innovators. So thank you for that. As we move to our final presentation, I do want to remind you that we do have an opportunity for you to put questions in the chat, and we will have a short panel at the end.
Thanks for that great reminder, Paul, and thank you, Tin, for the great presentation. Again, another awesome question. So I'm looking forward to more awesome questions at the end of the Q&A. And we'll take some of the questions from the Q&A box and the chat box as well. Now on to our next presenter, actually a final presenter for today, Vasily from Carbon Farm. Over to you, Vasily.
Hi, nice to be here. Do I have the slides? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Sharing the slides now. One moment.
Great, fantastic. So hi everyone, I'm Vasily Carantino. I'm the CEO of Carbon Farm. So I think we had a few examples here of satellite MRV player, and so we'll talk what Carbon Farm does in this space. So, sorry, are the slides loading? There you go. Next, please. All right, so I think we had a number of discussions around rice and why it's important to focus on those emissions. So at the very high level, right, it's 12% of the world's methane emissions, and there are sustainable ways to grow rice that reduce emissions by half, reduce water usage by 30%, while increasing the resilience and without impacting the yields. And so essentially at Carbon Farm, our mission is to incentivize farmers to adopt those practices at scale. Next slide, please. So to do that, we use carbon credits. And essentially, I want to go through what it means to access carbon markets. So there is 3 main steps. First, farmers need to adopt practices that reduce emissions. And so I think we've talked extensively about alternate wetting and drying and all of those practices that reduce emissions. So that's the first step. Second, called MRV, so measure, report, verification. So it's really the step where you bring the evidence of a change in practices and you quantify how this change in practices led to a reduction in emissions. So this is really the step where you submit those evidence to a carbon registry, who would then essentially assess the quality of a project and allow you to generate the carbon credits. And the third step is obviously to sell the credits on voluntary carbon markets and generate additional revenues to farmers. Next slide, please. So at Carbon Farm, we are the leading MRV player for rice. We are fully dedicated to the rice culture. We have a team of 15 people in three countries. We're present in France, in Vietnam, and in Indonesia. And we are working in 7 countries. So our main countries being Vietnam, India, we work in Cambodia, we're working in West Africa as well. So we work very closely to academia. We work with IRI, we work with Cornell University, we work with the European Space Agency. And we've also developed close relationship with the carbon registry like Gold Standard or Vera. Next slide, please. So how does the model work? Essentially, when farmer adopts sustainable practices, we are using satellites and AI to verify the change from space. So we are able to verify the change in practices and quantify the reduction in emissions. Then we bring this evidence to a carbon registry like Vera, Gold Standard, or even for Article 6 transactions. And we handle the carbon certification process on behalf of our clients. Third is that we sell the credits at a premium price. Something to note is that there is all sorts of prices on carbon markets. We've seen credits sold between $2 a ton to $70 a ton. And the number one criteria of quality is MRV, is how rigorous are your carbon claims. And essentially, investing in a satellite MRV system very often pays for itself as it yields to a quite significant premium on the carbon price. And so that allows us to reverse additional revenues to the farmers. So now the question is, how do we work with the farmers? Well, we work with intermediaries. So we partner with governments or international organizations, agribusiness companies, so agri-input companies, rice traders, cooperatives, and NGOs. And so frankly, anyone that share our mission and have a connection with the farmers and are best suited to help them transition to sustainable practices can be a partner to Carbon Farm. Next slide, please. So we work with, that's I already talked about that. Next slide, please. So we, at Carbon Farm, this is an overview of our MRV system. So essentially, we monitor the practices that really leads to reduction to greenhouse gas emissions. So those are water management practices. So here on the left side of the screen, you have a GIF that really represents the irrigation throughout the season. So we're monitoring wet field, and we have a flooding index between 0 and 1, 0 being dry, 1 being flooded. So 0 is yellowish, and 1 is flooded. And so that's really the type of evidence we can have for one field, but also at scale to demonstrate the adoption of sustainable practices. And so here you can see a draining event that will happen now for 1, 2, 3, and 4 days. It floods again from the side of the farm. We also focus on the way the rice is seeded and also the way the straw is managed at the end of the season. Finally, once we have a good picture of all the practices that are implemented in one field, we establish the greenhouse gas estimation in 2 scenarios, in the baseline scenario, so before the project intervention, and after the project has started. And so that allows us to estimate the number of carbon credits that can get generated. Next slide, please. So why use Carbon Farm's technology? Well, we simplify operations at scale. So we work with projects that have 30, 40,000 farmers. So when you work at this scale, collecting information on the farming practices, even on simple things like are farmers actually farming rice, how many seasons per year, is actually very difficult. So we provide this information at scale in a very simple way. Our solution is also near real time, so that allows project developers to have a way to intervene. If you notice that farmers in a specific village are not adopting the right practices, you can send an agronomist and see what's going on. Maybe there is a reason. And finally, there is more trust and transparency. So I already mentioned about that. There is no commodified price on carbon credits. And so when you bring very quality evidence of change, you increase the price of the credits and you're able to really get a premium. Next slide, please. So I've talked a lot about MRV. But at Carbon Farm, we support on 2 key dimensions. We support in MRV and we support in carbon asset development. So essentially, we help our partners to access carbon markets. So to access carbon markets, there's a number of steps that needs to happen, from the feasibility study to the stakeholder consultation to listing the project, and then every year an annual monitoring report and so on. And so we take care of this complexity to essentially enable any organizations to access carbon markets for rice. Next slide, please. So examples of that, we've been working with the Asian Development Bank on a feasibility study to do a carbon project in Cambodia. So essentially testing the farmers' appetite for a carbon markets in rice. So that's just an example of a feasibility assessment. On the other hand, we've also developed the first rice-based carbon project in Vietnam. So it's been about 2 years in the Mekong Delta in collaboration with ERI, Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, as well as Ricolto and Gold Standard. And so that's more of a demonstration project, a small-scale project on 2,000 hectares. But the goal is really to demonstrate that a rice project can happen in Vietnam. And so we're very happy to partner with any organization that share our goal, be it public or private, to make sustainable rice a reality for farmers. Next slide, please. So if you are a rice producer, a trader, a project developer from a government, an NGO, or an international organization, we can help you on accessing carbon markets. So please reach out. You have my contact information here. I'd be very happy to have a conversation and see how we can support you. Happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for a really comprehensive presentation. I thought the use of satellite data was really interesting and a really compelling demonstration You've worked in a lot of different countries around the world. I realize you're headquartered in France and worked in a number of other places. Can you tell us a little bit about how do you deal with the challenges of working in multiple jurisdictions at one time and in different geographies?
Right. So we have colleagues in different countries in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in India. So we have a ground presence, and we mainly work through partners. So our vision is not to be the main project developer on the ground, helping farmers, adopt those sustainable practices, but really be an enabler and handle the carbon market complexities, both on the MRV side, but also on, just what it means to access carbon markets, listing the project, doing the PDD, handling the VVB audits, and so on. So for that, you don't necessarily need to be boots on the ground working with farmers.
It's interesting, isn't it? So you've got technologies which are applied globally, carbon credit schemes which are applied globally, and then the specific on the ground presence that makes the actual project possible. And it's an interesting question as an industry, what is going to be a global role and consolidated globally, and what sort of things do need to be done locally. So thank you very much for that. As we transition to the panel session, and it is quite short, I did want to say thank you to all our presenters. What an exciting group of projects. And I think to be able to talk so specifically about projects that are taking the power of carbon credits and the finance that they can provide to some of the poorest farmers in our region, and the impact at the same time on methane reduction. What an exciting thing to be at the nexus of poverty alleviation and methane reduction. And there's some really interesting projects. My first question is about partnerships. And what strikes me as I hear all the presentations is the sheer complexity of what you do. So you've got behavioral change, agronomy, you've got the whole carbon market question, you've got the digital question, and all the different technical questions around particularly AWD. I want to start with the team at Thanks Carbon and to talk a little bit about your partnership with MAFRA, because I think what's going to make these projects work is partnerships. You can't do everything yourself. They're too complicated. So I wanted to ask the team from Thanks Carbon about their partnership with MAFRA and the role that MAFRA's played. And then perhaps there might be another of you that wants to talk about a non-government partnerships, which has been really important to you, and I'll get you to nominate yourself. But Thanks Carbon, if you want to go first, that'd be great. All right, we might ask one of the others of you to talk about an important partnership, whether it's government or another entity.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer the question. Can I? Yeah. Usually we have a strong connection with the Korean companies like Samsung Electronics and the other big company. They need carbon credit to compensate their carbon emission. So they are our carbon credit buyer. So we are collaborate with them. And also Korean government needs to abroad emission reduction. So we are collaborate with the Korean Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you've got the carbon buyer on one side, you've got the perhaps the agronomy skills and connection to farmers of government. Are there any other presenters from today that wanted to talk about a significant partnership that they've had beyond potentially government?
Well, I can go with this. So one of the things in non-government entities, there are two things that we can forego and see. Like, for example, in smallholder farmers, having the NGO setups, as well as small, organizations which are non-government in nature, they're ready to work with projects like these become a huge gate opener, because there's a lot of OpEx cost when it comes to managing the smallholder farmers, which as an organization you don't want to get involved in. Right, that's one learning curve that you get. Number two is that when you look at, let's say, corporations, we don't ideally look at, carbon credits buyers, because at the end of the day, these are commodities which will have a declining return over the couple of next years. What is more interesting is that you would want to likely partner up with organization who would bulk up the commodities and buy it at a few, forward contract rates. Now, this is very essential because for a farmer, when he trades his commodity, he needs the money at his hand. Now, if you're gonna do this, you can't do this with carbon credit. Carbon credits is about 3+ years and 4+years. You don't want to get tied up with that. Commodity is the quickest way to make money with the farmers, and tying up with organization like, for example, with rice, you would want to look at organization like Taiwa because they, aggregate all the rice and they sell it at a huge price in the market. So you would likely want to tie up with these folks and work with them, because government sometimes it's like a Titanic ship. They take a lot of time to turn, but startups being startups, we are a speedboat. We want to turn as soon as possible. So the quickest route is always with NGOs and corporates, work sooner and faster.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vishan, and an interesting insight around credit. So I do want to come back to credits because there was some discussion about different pricing and wildly different pricing for credits according to how projects are validated. And this is a question for any of you, but what attracts the highest premium? What sort of projects and what sort of monitoring systems, in your experience, lead to the highest premiums around a project? What are buyers looking for?
I'm happy to take a first
Thank
answer.
you.
So there are many different factors that influence the price of the project. The main one is the methodology that is used. So there is a number of methodologies. There is JCM, there's Article 6 with corresponding adjustment or not. There is voluntary carbon markets with gold standard and Vera. So all of those methodologies have different prices because the credits can be used for different purposes. For example, credits with corresponding adjustment can be used under the Singapore carbon tax. So that's the number one. Second dimension is really MRV. So how confident are we that the project is really having an impact on the ground? And how confident are we that a carbon credit really corresponds to a reduction in emissions? So MRV really brings this confidence and this trust to investors. And so for a project that has a very strong MRV system, it would be able to yield a quite significant premium on voluntary carbon market. The third dimension is the co-benefits and particularly on the livelihoods. So a project that help farmers benefit from additional revenues is a project and that is really sharing the revenues with smallholder farmers, is a project that would have not only an impact on greenhouse gases, but also on smallholder farmers. And so for that, it as well is able to sell at a bit of a premium as well.
Thank you very much. One final question for Sagri. There's a couple of technical questions here in the Q&A around what satellites do you use and how do you deal with the impacts of weather? Yeah, can you just talk a little bit more about some of the challenges of working with satellite imagery?
Yep. So from a satellite industry, it's sometimes it's difficult especially in water detection technology that we are developing, because it will require the high resolution satellite picture. So in this case, for some source of satellite data, it's not available on the area that available for that source of data. So the limited in some area in a country, for example, in Vietnam, just few area that we can achieve that data. It makes us a little bit challenging on that things. And second is we are now trying to meet the requirement of some methodology in the timeline. So for example, our technology is have some delay in the time, so it's not like real-time one data. So how can we manage the expectation and to can adapt and negotiate with the methodology developing to meet the requirement is also things that we have to face on as well.
Wonderful,
Yep.
Really interesting, and lots of challenges there around satellite. Look, I wanted to conclude by saying thank you. bunch of really interesting presentations, some overlapping content, obviously, which is always encouraging to see, and some disparate approaches as well, which is very encouraging and useful. The technology providers that you see here today represent the very top of a very large heap of applications that we reviewed as part of the Innovation Challenge. And we would encourage you to reach out to these entrepreneurs if you have projects and seek their support and engage them around projects that you're running in our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul, and the rest of the panelists. That was a great interaction. I know we have not gotten to all of the questions that were in the chat, but if you can, we will probably answer that on some FAQs once we release the full list of the GrowAsia Innovation Challenge cohort participants, the innovators, top 10 innovators for 2024. Now on to the next part of this afternoon's presentation. We just want to get a sense of everyone's session and how it has gone for you so far. So I'd like to know from you, our audience. Let's pull up that poll. And yes, please proceed and answer the questions. While our participants are doing that, I would like to ask our panelists and my co-host today, Paul, to stay and turn your videos on as you are now, so we can take a great photo after to commemorate our session today. All right, I'll do a few seconds more so that the rest of our panel, our participants, to respond to the poll questions. But I think that's it. Thank you, Susie. We may now end that quiz. Thank you. And I'm just gonna bring down the slide so we can see the rest of the panelists. Spotlight, please, so we can take that photo. Are you ready? Give us your best smile, folks. Part 1 of 2. Right, just waiting for the rest to get on my screen. And sorry for making you hold your smile for a while. You're very used to smiling, I can see that. All right, I think this is it. In 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you so much. And yes, so finally, for the rest of thank you so much again to the panelists this afternoon, Transit Tree. Thanks Carbon, Rice, Sagri, and Carbon Farm for presenting your innovation to the GrowAsia Network and the rest of our friends in the region and globally. Thank you once again to Paul for moderating this session, and thank you for our audience for sharing with us your questions and interest in the digital learning series. Now, if you're not already following us, go follow us on LinkedIn. The QR is flashed there on your screen. And if you have any questions on any GrowAsia matters, you can contact us at info@growasia.org. And my colleagues from the PPSA has been sharing the information from our panelists. If you didn't catch your QR earlier, you will be able, we will be sharing the full list of the top 10 innovators for the GrowAsia Innovation Challenge in a few days. So watch out for that on our LinkedIn space. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to register for tomorrow to meet the rest of the top 10 innovators for the GrowAsia Innovation Challenge. This is Borch once again from GrowAsia. This has been your digital learning series for today. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank you.